Hello, this is Chef Michael from Part-Time Permies. This is part 2 of our holiday poached pear recipe. In part 1, it was a holiday challenge to make a real nice and fairly simple poached fruit with red wine. And so you can view that. If you've already viewed that and you want to see how to dress up your pear into a restaurant-style fine dining plating, we're going to do that now. And while it's going to take a little extra work, it's things that you can do at home. It takes moderate level kitchen skills, and then we'll show you how we're going to pull it all together. So we've added some components. We've already talked about the pear. We have a pear that's been cored out, ready to go. We're going to create garnishes. So a fancier dessert, when you're talking pastry, usually has 4, 5, 6 different components. So this is our fruit component, and it's our spice component. We can add to that things such as creamy and rich. We have a sabayon. So sabayon is not a custard, it's dairy-free. It's got eggs in it, so if you can't have dairy, you might be able to do a sabayon. So sabayon, or zabaione in Italian, French or Italian, is whipped wine, sugar, and egg yolks. So you typically would use white wine or a Madeira or a sherry, but you can use all kinds of different things. It's the traditional base for a tiramisu. And so you take equal parts sugar, egg yolks, white wine, put them in a bowl, put them over a double boiler, and you whisk them like crazy until it thickens up, almost like you're making a hollandaise or béarnaise sauce. You can modify your liquid content a little bit to get them a little thinner or thicker. So it should be pourable or spoonable. I made it pretty thick on purpose. That has to do with the amount of sugar level and egg yolks used. And we just used white wine, and then we finished it with a little bit of citrus, vanilla, and nutmeg. So it's sort of an eggnoggy, creamy base. We made a nut garnish, so nuts another good component that could go into a dessert. So we made a salted caramel brittle. Basically took raw sugar, just regular old white sugar, threw it in a pan, couple drops of water, watched it closely, brought it up on high heat to a light caramel, and threw in our nuts. So these are some very lightly chopped pistachios and cashews, so some nicer nuts. We barely mix them in at the end, put a pinch of sea salt, and then we throw them onto a silpat or a piece of pastry paper and let them set up. So that's our brittle, and we can break that up or use it as our garnish item. We have a little bit of unsweetened chocolate here, a real nice dark chocolate. We'll put a little dusting garnish with that. We have our wine syrup, which was reduced and has been chilled. We could reduce it even further down to a full-on syrup instead of just concentrated. We have a little bit fancier plating bowl. So this is a large vessel. So whenever you have a larger vessel, it creates sort of like a picture frame where you have more room to work, and you automatically get a fancier presentation when you work with a more unique and larger vessel. 2 other components we're going to add in there. So we actually took some of the sabayon, made a little bit of whipped cream, and I folded in a small amount of whipped cream into the sabayon, making it even a little richer and thicker. So this is very rich and eggy. The whipped cream now has dairy component, but it becomes a little more spoonable, and I'm going to be able to mold it slightly. So we set that up. This is the base for a mousse, or if you add in gelatin, it becomes a Bavarian, which can set up and become sliceable. Once it's set, it won't move. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of this wine syrup. I put just a touch of gelatin in it. I warmed it up just to melt the gelatin, and I have a blender back here. I think we're still good. And I took some of that same syrup, gave it a real good blend, and with the pectin and the fiber from the pear naturally, and then just a little gelatin to help, I can blend this real hard, and I can get a really nice foam that'll hold for a reasonable period of time, plenty enough time to get it on your dish and get it out for presentation. So this is a wine foam. We've created crunch. We have soft, we have crunch, we have contrasting eggy flavors to fruity flavors. We do have a relatively chilled item, so we can't do a hot component per se. That would be the alternative. We could do an ice cream component. We could actually freeze some of these products and make it into a semi-Freddo or an ice cream. So those are your components, using temperature, using texture, and using flavor to create something that is quite a bit dressed up. One other component that I almost forgot to tell you about, we have a cookie. So a cookie or a biscuit, so you get bready or biscuity flavors, is another component. And the reason we want that, this is a pumpkin cookie. In this case, I didn't make it. Again, we're working with things that are kind of around the house. Have nutmegs, I have eggs from our chickens and such. So I have some pre-made cookies that are pumpkin flavored. We're going to use this both as a biscuity component, but we're also going to use it as a height component to lift up the pear as we put it in the syrup. You can also crumble up cookies, especially when they're hard, and you can use them as sprinkles and dustings for crunch components. Right, so we're going to quickly plate all these components for you. We've got our vessel here. It's got some nice scooped edges on it, so we'll just catch it in a way that we're going to use the cookie towards the back, so you'll be looking at it from the camera side. So we've got the cookie here, giving you more room to work for the front. We'll position our pear towards the back, which, see if we can get a little cookie to show. Got our wine syrup. This is still pretty wet, so we want to make sure we don't get it too much on the sides, because it's really hard to clean it up. So we've got a little wine syrup. Now we've got our Sauvignon mousse. Let's get 2 spoons of equal size, same design. This is a little bit soft. You can get it stiff enough where it can hold really nice. This is going to be a really wet peak, and we're going to make a canal or a football shape. We got a little bit. Just going to drop that in there. I might make a little bit of a second one here. And you can get these really tight and clean by dipping them in some water, but we're going to do it a little bit home style. We just figure out a piece that some people eat them and really enjoy them a lot. Some will hardly touch them, and I guess we want to be somewhat portion conscious, but this is lay that back there. We'll cut it into pear a little bit. There we go. Our foam looks like it's still holding up, so that's good. I mean, it's not going to disappear immediately. I'm just going to scrape the foam off the top. We're just going to let it fall down the side, somewhat natural. Create a little foaminess in there. If I had some gold flakes or something, which on a home project I don't, I might fleck it with a little gold foil or something at this point. And then just going to contrast the cream, sort of eggnog cream, with a touch of the chocolate. So yeah, trying to drive everything to a center point over there. So fairly simple components. When you see it, each one takes a few minutes of work. You need to plan ahead, but nothing in itself is that difficult. Put it all together and we have pear cookie, which we didn't make, the brittle, the nut brittle, the Sauvignon mousse, so that's 4 items, the wine syrup, which is a leftover component of the poaching pears, and the little nage or foam, which is a leftover component also. And then the chocolate. So we're looking at, is that 6, 7 components that we've built in there. We could keep building from there if we wanted to. And there you go. So that's how to dress up a simple poached pear with a little bit of red wine and some eggs. I'm Chef Michael. This is Part-Time Permies, and we'll see you soon for another cooking video in the near future.